In this video, I will be talking about annotative text. Now, you could treat text as if it's an object, and you're going to see you could annotate many different types of objects. Like you could annotate dimension styles, blocks. You can make them annotative, and what that means is that when you set different scales to an object, as you change the scales in your viewports, the objects will adjust to the proper scale size. So with text, it really is nice because if I switch over to my two viewports here, layouts for my two viewports, you notice I have, and these are not annotative text objects. You notice that no symbol appears. I'll show you in a few minutes how a symbol will appear. But what I wanted to tell you here was that this viewport here is scaled to 3/8 of an inch, and this one is scaled to 1/2 inch. Now, normally what I would have had to have done was, if I want to put dimensions or text inside of there and they weren't annotative, I would have to make different styles with different heights for the different scales. But now with annotative text and annotative dimensions, we can make one style that will adjust to the different viewports. So that's what I'm going to discuss now. So I've already opened up the annotative text exercise, and if I go to back to here, and it should open up like this. And what I have two objects there, and one I'm going to call a desk and one I'm going to call a workstation. So we're going to put some text in there, and then I'll show you what happens when we put it in a different viewports and what will show it at what heights and whatnot. So now after I've opened this, the very first thing I said was to go out to the text style. Now, text style, you can get it in a number of ways. You see, like here, right next to where it says text, there's a little arrow there. If you select that, you'll get the text dialog box, and I'll cancel that. Or you can get that under format if you're using the classic AutoCAD menus. Or you could type it in on the command line. Doesn't matter. You're going to get to the same place. So now what I tell you to do here is, at step number 3, is to create a new style of text. You notice that you have one here that says standard, and like I'd mentioned earlier in the when we were talking about text style, you have to have a standard text style. But so now if I pick new, it asks me for a name, and I said to name it Fern -anno. And then pick OK. Now you notice that the name is in a list. Depending on which one that I select is the one that I will make changes to now. So I want to change the Fern anno. Now here I tell you to choose whatever font style you like. Some people like Times Romans. I find that Arial is a simple style to use, so a lot of times I use Arial, and I use regular. You see, you could do bold or italic or just regular, so I'm just using regular. But then down here, there's where it says size, I want to use annotative. And I also, for this exercise, I show you that to put a check mark, match text orientation to layout, and I'll show you what this will cause in a little while. But now over here for the text height, when we were talking about regular text, I said if you leave that 0, it will prompt you for the size of the text. But now I want to put in what size I actually want to print out on the paper. So I say, well, I want my text, when my drawing prints out, whether I print out on a 24 by 36 or 11 by 17 or an 8 or a E size, my text should be 1/8 of an inch high. So now I have Ferno Anno. I have the font that I want to use. I said to make it annotative, I said to check this text orientation to the layout, and to make the height 1/8 of an inch high. Now I pick apply and close. So now I have a text style. Now at step number 4, I said to make sure that the Fern anno is the style that is current. which means if I'm going to type something, that's the style I'm going to be using. You notice up here it's very simple. Up here it says, so you know that's the current style. If I had wanted to change style, here's the little drop down there, that triangle. Remember, anytime there's that drop down, you have choices. If I pick on that, I have Fern Anno and I have Standard. Remember, that's what we saw in our text style dialog. But if I want Standard to be the style to use, I pick on that, and now there's Standard. But I want to use the Fern Anno. So now that's my current. So now that I have my Fern Anno set as the current style, now I want to type the text. So I tell you to use, remember single line text? You could use that or type DT. I like to use DT. You can go and get it from over here and get single line, however you want to do it. So I use DT, enter. And now it says pick a point. And you notice up here it tells me that it's annotative. You notice what it says? It says that the text is 6 inches high because of the fact that right down here, if you look down on the bottom, right now we're set up to be 1/4 inch scale. And in order for 1/8 inch high text to print out at 1/4 inch scale, it actually has to be 6 inches high. And as we go through this, you can see how that will change. But anyway, so now I pick a point here. My rotation I want to be 0, so I'll leave that as 0 or type 0 and enter. And then I type the word, and I'm going to turn on my cap locks. That's enter and enter twice. And if I wanted to, I could pick and move it to the middle there. So now I have that text, and it's set to 1/4 inch high. Now I said to go, I went over to page 2, and I says to type DT again or start text again, place it over here. For rotation, I want -90 because I want it to go down. Enter. And I type workstation. Enter, enter. Notice it didn't rotate. The reason for that is that if you go back here to your text style, remember we said match text orientation to the layout. That means that I want that always to stay in the same direction as my layout. So if you want to rotate text, you have to have that unchecked. And I pick apply and close it. Now I'm going to go type, I'm going to go do the text again. And this time I'm going to put -90, enter, and I'm going to type workstation again. Notice that the text rotated, and I could delete this one up here. So now the text rotated with it. So now I have both of these text objects here, and you notice that when I put my cursor on top of it, you see it has one icon there? That means that it only has one scale set to it, and that scale is 1/4 inch.